the Transportation Committee meeting. Today is Monday, June 13th. First up on our agenda is consideration of the minutes from the May 23rd, 2022 meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, we'll consider approval.
Move approval of the May 23rd minutes.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. First up on our presentations is Ms. Janice Hosey from CommuteSmart. Thank you. Hey. Yeah, you got to keep that mic close.
Close to me?
Yes.
Okay. Afternoon. How are y'all today?
Doing great.
Good. My name's Janice. Better. We offer a no-cost incentive to people who get to work any other way than in the car by themselves. So for anybody that takes the bus, anybody that walks, bikes, teleworks, or carpools with at least one other person, we will pay an incentive to do so. Our incentives are $1 a day for your first 90 days, up to $70. That comes in a check form. And then after that, we pay a continuous $25 gift card every 90 days for people that log their commutes. And what's important for us is to see the miles reduced off of the highway, so we can kind of calculate and translate that into all the type of things that we need to report for our reporting. So our program is for anybody who lives and or works in Jefferson or Shelby counties. So it's good for people who live in our area, but also who may work outside of the area. Also for people who are traveling into our area to get to work, it's a really good incentive for them as well. We currently, CommuteSmart partners, just some of our stats. We partner with 122 employers in our region. Last year in 2021, our program participants had an $815,000 gas savings, fuel cost savings. Our program participant vehicle miles reduced almost 10 million miles off of our roadways. It was 9.6 million miles last year, and it's at zero cost to employers. We have a lot of resources that we can offer employers in this region. We have a ride matching system for potential carpool partners and van pool formations. We also have transportation demand management. We can help employers identify where their employees are coming from. We have surveys where we can help them identify if there are really problems. If people are not wanting to be openly vocal about their transportation issues, we can definitely identify those anonymously, whether it be through surveys, events, people talk to us about different things, and we're able to identify those problems for them. And also a lot of times HR hears those stories and they know when people are having issues getting to and from work, so they're able to contact us. But we can see if there are groups of people who we can match up to help them get to and from work, whether it be for carpooling partners or our van pool program. Van pool's a little bit different than the other ones. They don't get the same incentives. So with the van pool, it is a group of people that ride into work together. They meet in a certain location and they ride in together. We have vans that come from Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, Anniston, Huntsville, Leeds, Trustful, Hoover. So vans can start and form anywhere, and they ride in together. As long as the van forms in our region, if it's Jefferson or Shelby or comes through our region, they receive up to a $450 subsidy from the Regional Planning Commission for that van. For people who are taking that everyday commute, riding in a van is far less costly than filling up your car weekly to ride in a car by yourself every day. So if you're coming to and from Montgomery daily to get to work, that van nearly cuts your cost in half, if not more than half. So you're not riding every day by yourself. We also have an emergency ride home incentive. So just in case anything ever happens, people are never stuck at work. We are able to provide them with that emergency ride to get home, whether it's family illness, unexpected overtime, their carpool partner gets sick, anytime they have something happen that they didn't plan on happening. The only thing we don't cover is weather instances. So just in case you bike to work and there's a storm, we kind of anticipate that you will read the weather and you'll know not to bike or walk that day. But those kind of things, we can't cover that. But anytime something like that happens, people can give us a call and we get them home free of charge. And that's for all of our program participants. We usually get them a yellow cab, or if that or somebody else picks them up and takes them home, we will reimburse their mileage. If a family member picks them up, we reimburse that mileage as well. So we kind of take that guesswork for a lot of people who get afraid of what happens if I have a sick child, or what happens if I get to work and I have to work overtime, or my carpool partner has an emergency. It kind of takes that guesswork out of participating in our program. For a lot of people, they wonder about carpooling, like, do I have to ride with somebody that I'm not familiar with or anything like that? No, you can carpool with anybody and participate in our program. It can be a spouse, it can be another family member, as long as they are also going to and from work as well. That is what we're looking for. People can match themselves, or like I said, we have a ride matching database where we can send them a list of people who live in their area and work in their area. Councilor Quinn, I know you wanted us to talk a little bit about the fringe tax benefit.
Before you move on, though, with the van pool program, those vehicles are actually provided by CommuteSmart, correct?
Absolutely. So with the van pool program, we provide the van, we provide the maintenance and the insurance. What it is it's based upon, the cost is split based upon how many people are riding on the van, mileage, type of van they have, and that's it. And then they do a gas cost. But it's split amongst, it'd be anywhere from 7 people to 15 people.
Okay. And yeah. How do you handle the whole COVID situation, the COVID protocols, masking, all that kind of stuff? Is it up to the participants, or?
It is up to the van. It's up to the participants. It's up to the van.
Okay.
Yeah. Same with carpooling. We give their recommendations that come out through our van pool management program, since it's managed by Enterprise, that they give their recommendations, but it is ultimately up to the van pool. Okay.
All right. Great. And on the benefit, the subsidy, we're going to be talking about EV charging later, so I wanted to ask, is there any kind of incentive for people who have electric vehicles?
Currently, our funding has not been sourced for that, so we do not provide that. Our still goal is to get single occupied vehicles, whether they're electric vehicles or not, off the road. We want more than one person riding in that car.
Right.
So no, there's not an additional benefit.
Okay.
It's not covered.
All right, great. Yes, and I'm very interested in the tax benefit.
So for employers, we are a free benefit. That's how we actually position our program for a lot of employers. Our program is a free benefit because we do all of the work, we do provide all of the materials, all of the marketing, and that's just an added incentive that they can offer their employees, especially since a lot of people are already taking that clean commute to work naturally. But it also encourages people to take that gives them that extra mile to keep being committed to taking that clean commute to work. The commuter tax fringe benefit, it is an additional benefit that is provided by the IRS in section, I think it's either 132 or 123, I think it is. But it is, this year it's $280. And they are fringe benefits that cover an employee's transportation-related expense with pre-tax dollars. The transportation benefits are exempt from income tax withholding, Social Security, and Medicare FICA taxes, and federal unemployment tax. Employees can use the funds on qualifying expenses such as public transportation and parking fees. Offering commuter benefits decreases employee transportation costs and encourages the workforce to use public transportation, which is especially helpful for congested cities. Employers and employees can contribute to an employer's commuter benefits plan. However, your combined contribution must be below the IRS's contribution limits, which that limit is this year, it's $280. Right now, it can be used for parking, transit, and there is another, I think it's parking and transit that it can be used for right now. There was a small amount that could be used for biking, but it was cut in 2017. There are talks that it might be added back in the Build Better plan, that a $25 amount will be put back inside, but we have not gotten the word on that as of right now. But it can be done on payroll, and it's a pre-tax benefit that employers can cut and use for those transportation benefits for their employees. And it is available for all employers. A lot of our federal employers also offer incentives for people who take van pools, like the VA. They have an incentive for van poolers. That's just an additional added bonus for their employees who are participating.
Great. So just to kind of further clarify, so an employer could, offer a benefit to their employees up to $280 per month to assist with transportation, some form of public transportation. So that could even look like the Birmingham On Demand program here in the city of Birmingham. And or parking. So with the parking, would that have to be like a park and ride type situation, or
it's
any
actually
kind of...
not distinguished. It is any parking. So if there's parking lots, a lot of employers we know around here have like remote parking lots that are cheaper than the closer in parking lots. It could go for any form of parking.
Yeah.
Not just park and run.
Something your client should know, Director Davis, that they're probably taking advantage of this anyway, but for the Birmingham Parking Authority, they have a lot of employer clients that have spaces leased, that's probably something that some of them may not be aware of, is that they can actually use those costs as a tax write-off for leasing those spaces. So good to know. And if I remember correctly, this was not this incentive was not, or this commuter tax benefit was not included in the 2017 transportation law. It seems like the last administration wasn't included, so this is something that's been added back.
So it changed a little bit. It was there. It changed a little bit, but it was still there. That is in 2017 is when they had a biking was included, and that changed. And they are thinking it may be. I think there's a proposal to have it included in the Build Back Better Act at a smaller fraction of the amount for cyclists who use that to get to and from work, who commute by cycle to work. There will be a small amount in there, but it has not been decided upon yet. But it did increase. The amount has changed. We look every year to see if it has changed.
Okay.
But right now it's at $280.
So, all of this is great to consider, and is even more relevant, now that folks I was just talking to Maisha before the meeting. I think I paid $4.70 plus cents at the pump this past week. So it's clearly double what we were paying probably a year or so ago. It seems like it wasn't that long ago. I was paying, maybe $35 to fill up, and now it's, 70 plus. So definitely something to be thinking about. And appreciate you coming to present this information. Councilor Woods, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just kind of interested in your feedback as far as people getting involved in the program, what that kind of looks like, maybe early on, and just talk about that transitioning period and what that looks like.
Absolutely. So if you already have a car, say somebody and their spouse are carpooling together, they can register for the program and start logging their commutes. They just get a username and a password, and they log into our system and tell us how they got to work, and that's how we keep track of everything. It calculates mileage, it calculates emissions, how much they're saving in fuel costs, how much they're saving in emissions costs, those type of things. For somebody who is looking to get started, whether they may be looking to find a carpool partner, once we get them registered, we run that list for them, and we will send it to them, and they can contact them through our system without giving out any of their information, just to say, hey, are you still interested in looking for a potential carpool partner? For the van pool, it's a little bit different. Once we have a cold list of at least 5 to 6 people who are interested in starting a van, we start a couple of meetings with our van pool management program, and they just line out everything. Like the van pool is very detailed. They have a time where they leave. They have a time, if they're doing pickups in the neighborhood, they have a time where they pick up. If they have, if they are meeting in a certain location, they have a time that they leave exactly, because it's great. If you have to be at work at 7:45, of course you don't want to be late. The vans are very timely. They leave, they know when they need to leave, and you can get left. We've had many of people get left if they're not at their van pool leaving point at a certain time, and they ride in together and they leave at a certain time. So it's very precise. It actually saves a lot of people on absences, timeliness. There's a lot of studies on that, and we have seen a lot of people who have said, hey, I've been way more on time, way more ready for work than I was since I started working the van. And with the van, there is an appointed driver and a coordinator. The driver, of course, everybody who gets approved to drive, and it's based upon the van, what they decide if everybody has to be approved to drive or not. They go through checks for their driving record and things like that, so they can be approved to drive. And the coordinator is the liaison between our program and the van pool, so they can assist with helping us with any van pool needs that might be had. Customer service issues, services, maintenance, anything like that. They're our liaison between our program and that van, so we know how to communicate with them. If they're looking for riders, we will do the advertising through our social media channels and help them with their employers to see if there's any way that we can find them any new riders. And we just kind of help take care of everything for our van pool commuters. The only thing we ever ask people to do is log their commute. Van poolers don't have to log their commutes, but the only thing we ever ask people to do to get their incentives is to log their commutes and tell us how they got to work. That's really the one thing that's on them. Yeah. So they can get the incentives.
Yeah, I like, because we were kicking around trying to figure out more options for transportation, because you got the city center, but then as you get further away from downtown, it's a lot more spread out, and you need different methods. So this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, so if folks, want to get more information, the website is www.commutesmart.org.
Yes. And
you guys have info about all your programs. I did have one question just about commuting patterns in general. So, of course, 2020 and 2021 were hugely disruptive, and traffic patterns and just changed dramatically. Have we sort of returned to pre-pandemic commuting patterns, do you think?
Not fully. We still have a lot of hybrid scheduling going on. There are a lot of our city center businesses that are not fully back at work. Like Alabama Power, Regions, those kind of places are still on a heavy hybrid schedule. A lot of people still working from home. So I don't think we're all the way there yet. We're definitely not all the way back. I mean, of course, traffic has picked up, but we have seen a lot of our partners, some of our smaller businesses are definitely back in the office and definitely back in, but a lot of people are still on hybrid schedules. A lot of people are still working from home and really initiating coming in 2 times a week, 1 time a week, which we see as a pattern across the country. A lot of people are switching over to that. And we don't feel like we have enough of time to see if that's the way it's going to stay. But right now, the hybrid schedule is what they're calling in the transportation world is definitely the biggest pattern we see happening.
Interesting. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. Again, the website is www.commutesmart.org. All right, thank you. Appreciate you guys coming. All right, next up on our agenda, we have Mr. Michael Staley from Alabama Clean Fuels Coalition, who's going to be telling us a little bit about their EV charging initiative.
Nice to be here. So I did give y'all some slides. I don't know if you have that printed.
Yes.
So what I may do, I don't know if there's a way to show them here or if y'all can just go through what you have, but no worries on my end.
Our PIO folks did get the slides, I think, so
But that's not critically important.
yeah, sure.
Talk through it. So.
Okay.
So I'm Michael Staley. I'm president of the Alabama Clean Fuels Coalition. We're a nonprofit, and we really strive to do 4 things well. But today I'm here primarily to talk about electric vehicle charging infrastructure and opportunities related to that. But I just want to give a quick overview. So we're a nonprofit. We're right down 65, Highway 31 exit. We're a clearinghouse for information about alternative fuels. Everything we do is about the transportation space. We do public education and outreach. We receive grants and provide grants for alternative fuel infrastructure. And we also work on policy at the state. And when I say alternative fuels, I'm gonna tell you that we have hydrogen, propane, you have biodiesel, E85 ethanol, natural gas, and then electric. And you also have idle reduction technologies. And we work a lot with Altec here. The bucket trucks that go out, you reduce idling, you reduce fuel consumption. So what we do is primarily all working on reducing petroleum consumption. And really, in a way, a primary focus of ours is in a way that's economically feasible, not breaking the piggy bank. And as we've said, and with a $4, $5 a gallon gasoline, you get a lot of interest in ways to reduce the gas bill. So right now it's really hot, and so is electric. So in the slides I provided, I'm just going to go through, but I want to say on electric, people are driving electric vehicles. And the city of Birmingham has a fleet of electric vehicles that you use in your fleet, and we work with your fleet manager, Cedric Roberts, often, and we really appreciate his leadership in coming out to events at Everett Market and participating in the state's EV advisory committee. So we have a lot of interaction already with the city. But it is important to note that there's all walks of life that are driving EVs now, and there are affordable EVs and more models becoming available. The state has an initiative that was launched in November of 2020 called Drive Electric Alabama. And under that initiative, since 2020, the state has funded a grant program for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Now, when you talk about charging infrastructure, there's several different types. And so you have a basic wall outlet is referred to as level 1. That's used by a lot of people at home that drive a typical range, 20, 30, 40 miles a day. And that can really satisfy their charging needs for the most part. Then you have a level 2 charger, which is like the type of plug that you use for your dryer. And that could charge a car faster depending on the power levels. But still, it takes hours to charge a car fully. And then you have the fast charging, which is a whole different ballgame and can charge a car, in 30 minutes or less or more, given, depending on the car and the exact power level of that charger. But without getting too technical, you have different types of chargers, and so the state received funds through the Volkswagen settlement. It was 15% of that could be used for electric vehicle supply equipment, EVS, fast chargers, charging. And the state legislature provided $1 million. So in 2020, ADECA, the state agency, did a round of grants, and they received in that round 77 applications worth $18 million. And they were able to fund $2 million, which was about 18 projects. So that was 2020. The legislature continued to provide funding in 2021. So ADECA actually on June 10th, Friday, just closed out a round of applications for fast chargers, and they had a priority of a tier 1 for I-22 fast charging grants, and then tier 2 was for else that's not on the interstates. And without getting too technical, the interstates are important to have a network of fast chargers. And the reason, those people that own an EV, they drive it, they park it at home, they charge it at night. But when you go out on a trip or you're traveling, you need to be able to charge that car. So having fast chargers located, and UAB actually received one of those grants, and I think Davis was very involved in that, so he could speak to that as well. But when people are traveling, they need an access to charge their car so they can continue on the trip. Well, that brings people into your community, our community. They come to our community, they stop and they spend money not only to charge that car, but while they're dwelling, they spend money. So there is an important, I think, opportunity not to miss. Is we want to make sure that people have access to charging infrastructure throughout our state. Well, I told you about 2020, I told you about 2021, and so late in 2021, the state launched Drive Electric Alabama, which is an initiative, a statewide initiative to raise awareness about electric vehicles and electric charging infrastructure. And so that's a coalition, and it's growing. And so through Drive Electric Alabama, there's often, very frequently, opportunities to learn. And I want to make sure to tell you that on September 21st and 22nd at the BJCC, there will be an EV summit, which will be like I would call it, for lack of time, a one-stop shop, where if you or your city planners or whoever, from anywhere in the state wants to learn about charging, about electric vehicles, about the grant opportunities, they can come and learn. So a big thing happened in November. The federal government passed the big infrastructure bill, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. In that bill, there's a bunch of money for fast charging, and there's also money for community charging. The level 2 charging will be coming. So I'm gonna get focused on some programs in a second. But the real big picture, 30,000 foot view, is that there is a lot of money available in grants. And it's typically, we see 80% grants, 20% matches being required. So the state of Alabama, I told you the state has a program that will continue to provide opportunities for applicants. And that could be the city, that could be the parking authority, that could be the businesses. A combination, you could collaborate. But that 20% match does put some skin in the game, but the 80% grant really is a pretty big incentive when you get an 80% grant. And so right now, in the next 5 years, $79.4 million will come to the state of Alabama from the federal government. That money is directed to be spent on corridors that have been designated by the Federal Highway Administration charging corridors. States nominate corridors. In Alabama, all of our interstates are nominated as corridors. They're actually all, there's corridor pending and corridor ready. So under that federal program, the goal is to get fast charging infrastructure spaced no more than 50 miles apart and close access to the corridor, so right along the interstates. So businesses in those vicinities have good opportunities to apply for those funds. The state will administer that program. So right now, those grant programs are being created, and the state has an EV advisory group, and the state is developing all of the ways that they will make those grants available in the future. That's the federal funding, and that's the statewide. And then later this year, there's going to be even another program that will provide the opportunity not to apply to the state, but it's federal funds that you would apply to DC. That will have opportunities for your multi-unit dwellings, for your high-dense urban areas, not necessarily connected to the interstates. And so all of those opportunities are going to be here, and the state still has funds that will be available. So you have federal, state funds, opportunities. And the guidance that I think, Councilor Quinn, we've talked, but in a big picture, you want to think about where is it important in the city that you have these opportunities, because we don't want to leave any area of any city or behind. And I think especially for the city of Birmingham, we're excited to be having that dialogue and to be assisting, to try and help for you to prioritize. And we're currently working with Mr. Davis about the parking authority and looking at another opportunity, which is federal dollars through the Alabama Partners for Clean Air and the Regional Planning Commission. Mm-hmm. And so looking at those opportunities for funding, that program also has eligibility for charging infrastructure. Parking authority, opportunities to apply for grants. So I want to also just touch on the importance of this, as our state is the number 4 automobile exporting state. It's our state's economy, and a lot of jobs in our state depend on our automotive sector. And so just the last 5 public announcements about EV manufacturing in the state, $1.52 billion in investment, 998 jobs. Mercedes is producing EVs. We have a battery plant. We have a graphite processing facility, hopefully producing graphite for batteries in Coosa County. We have battery recycling that's going to be happening in Tuscaloosa. A lot of opportunity for the suppliers. The state, as I told you, is developing an electric vehicle infrastructure plan. It's actually been in existence since 2020. A lot of thought going into this, and for the sake of time, I won't stand here and dwell, but I just want to appreciate this opportunity to come in and talk about this a little bit, working with you so that we can find opportunities and help guide you towards funding for the priorities that you select. I'd be happy to take any questions. In the packet, I provided a link to Drive Electric Alabama's website. I also provided a link to the Alabama Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Plan and to ADECA's electric vehicle charging program, as well to the application for the infrastructure funding assistance through CMAQ. So in the packet, you have links to all of that information. I'd be happy to take any questions or clarify anything. Sorry if I was a little disjointed there, but not having the slides in front of me kind of threw me off a little.
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind as you were talking, we should probably definitely have some conversations with our folks in our Innovation and Economic Opportunity department to talk about how the city could potentially be involved in helping to incentivize EV charging. So, I'm thinking that, for some of these businesses that, want to go after those 80/20 grant funding opportunities, that 20% may represent a significant expense for them, and that's potentially something that the city could offset, some portion of that. Sales tax abatement, is what I'm thinking about specifically. So there's that brings about a question that I had about, for these charging stations. I believe you have to pay at the pump type situation, right? There's a card reader. I don't own an EV, so I've never been placed in this situation, but how does it work?
That's correct. So there are different models. So for some limited situations I've seen where there are companies that may come into some retail locations and put the chargers in that have screens with advertisements, and they actually offer for customers, charging. But the overwhelming majority of the charging that's in the public space is through, just like you pay at the pump. But it's maybe not necessarily stick the card in, but you hook the car up, it communicates. And so there's, different networks. So if you're a Tesla owner, I always say that, a Tesla's a lot like an iPhone. You have a certain charger cord that you have, and then you have an adapter that you can go to any station. But if you don't own a Tesla, then you're not going to be charging, at least for the time being, at a Tesla station. So when we talk about these public charging, we're talking about universally adaptable. Any car can charge there, Tesla's included. And then you have universal payment methods so that it's accessible. Of course, ADA compliance and other access issues are important. It's also important that you think of locations that are safe, or that are at least well lit day and night. If you're traveling and you stop to charge your car for 20 or 30 minutes, you want to consider the safety of where you are, and amenities, things that are nearby where people can pick up a drink or some food or go shopping, whatever they might do. But yes, you're correct. People pay when they charge.
And
It's much less than you pay for gasoline.
yeah, well, that's my question is, what are the rates? And then in addition to that, the government may not be up to speed on this, but is that, a significant portion of fuel costs for gasoline and diesel are actually taxes. So is there tax on the pump at the EV charger?
So in Alabama, what has happened is the state actually imposed a fee for not paying gasoline tax. So they pay for an electric, fully battery electric, $200 annual registration fee. That is intended to be distributed just as municipality, to the county, to the state, for those same purposes. And so that's so then adding an additional tax could be used in Alabama as double taxation,
Right.
especially if you're an EV owner, because you're already paying. So I think that's an important question that comes up though often. Is, all know infrastructure funding is critically important. The e-gallon is about $1.08. So that's, anywhere you go, you might be paying a different rate because of where you go. Just like a gasoline station, you might see one station has gas at one price and another at another. So there are differences, and on a case-by-case basis, but typically they equate the e-gallon to be about $1.08. So
Awesome.
significant savings there.
Okay. Council Woods?
Thank you. Kind of interested in just what you're seeing as far as trajectory, as far as the number of electric vehicles being introduced in the area, so to speak.
Right now, it's about between 5,000 and 6,000 EVs registered in the state. And if you're like me, so I drive a crew cab pickup truck, a big four-door pickup truck, and I spent $100 to fill it up the other day. But I've ordered a Silverado EV, and I've driven or ridden in an F-150. So the availability of the cars, Counselor, all of the major automobile manufacturers are ramping up their offerings of EVs. So our typical, most people think of an EV and you think it's something little that you would, maybe want to drive, but a lot of people say, I don't want to drive something little like that. And now what you find is if you go search, you'll see lots of models available. I think that all of the automotive sector is impacted by supply chain issues, and everybody's impacted that way, but there are more and more EVs on the road, and I'm seeing a lot more when I'm out driving around. So I don't know, does that address your question?
Yeah, just kind of interested in the ramp up and just what you're seeing as far as how many more people are coming online year after year.
Yeah, it's certainly the biggest issue is the range anxiety, and people are concerned about range anxiety. Well, the first EVs that were sold had short ranges, 50, 75, 100 miles. Now, really any new EV you buy is going to have a 200, maybe 300 mile or more range. And so that's about as far as most gas cars go. So you have less maintenance, and what the ramp up, estimates people say are that, by 2030, maybe, we might have 20% of the cars on the road could be EV. You see a lot of commitments from the manufacturers. They're gonna sell, every automobile they sell will be an EV by a certain year. The ramp up looks to be on our, in our state electric vehicle infrastructure plan, there's some figures in there, and I don't have them right here to cite for you. But if you look in that plan, you'll see low, medium, and high adoption. And in some recent months, EV sales have represented 10% of total car sales. So people are buying them. And as a city, I think one of the biggest considerations is making sure that businesses in the city can access those drivers. Because when they stop at the summit or when they stop, somewhere to charge their car, they're going to spend money. And if they can't stop in the city to spend money, they're going to stop somewhere else and spend their money. So that's a key factor.
Yeah, I'll point out that, some of the purchasing decisions are definitely directly correlated to the infrastructure. I remember, I think it was WVHM, did a story about EV charging at UAB, or I read it somewhere. But, I remember reading from, some folks who work at UAB that said, when they did their EV charging infrastructure there, that was the thing that, made the decision for them that they were going to go EV versus, hybrid or gas. As, these grant programs support additional EV charging stations, I think we'll see, accelerated growth in that segment of the market for sure.
Well, and that's exactly right. And also as employers, that's a great benefit for employees to be able to plug up while they're at work if there's the accessibility. Outlet a lot of times could help you charge your car while you're at work. You're there for 6 or 8 hours at least.
Yeah, you mentioned the summit in September. That was the 20th and the 21st?
21st and the 22nd.
21st and 22nd. And just give us the details of that again.
So the Alabama Automotive Manufacturers Association website is the place to go, AAMA. I don't know the website off the top of my head, but they are spearheading the organization of this, and there's a of folks right now working to put together an agenda, but the primary purpose of this is so that individuals, especially entities that may apply for grants or want to learn more about, there's a lot of questions. If you're going to apply for a grant, you've got to think about, where does it go? Is there power supply that I need? Who do I call to buy a charger? What are the options? What do I need to think about in terms of where is it needed? What's the right kind of location that I'm going to have an asset that's going to be utilized? And where will it drive and catalyze adoption? So all of those things are the key tenets of this EV Summit coming together at the BJCC. Reception on the evening of the 21st. There will be a program for the 22nd throughout the day. And currently, it's subject to change, but the intention is at the end, the last couple hours would actually get really deep into looking at how would you go about actually applying for a grant. So a grant workshop that, to the level it's possible to call it a workshop in about a 2-hour period of that agenda. But the whole intention is understanding there's a lot of funding available, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of education that's needed, and then there's also just that simple basic need to connect people with the grant opportunities to know how should you go about planning for those. And everything, like you said, you talked about incentivizing or helping to support, and all of the collaborative efforts, every one of the programs does incentivize those collaborations where whether, let's say that the city was able to help put in a portion or some other entity, well, if you pay more than the necessary match, then that would get scored better. But also when you collaborate and think of having like a citywide, plan, we want to make sure that all ends of town and every corner gets thought of, and that we don't get 10 years down the road and go out on a bicycle ride and look at each other and say, man, we did good, but we left that one corner of the city out. How did that happen? Mm-hmm. Or that one part of the state, that how did that happen? And that's where our state is I think we could be really proud of what's going on at the state level. And it's really nice that the city of Birmingham is engaging in this and already has. You're already a leader in the state by having EVs in your fleet and teaching even other city departments how you benefit. And Cedric is a very, very good advocate and a very knowledgeable person when it comes to the EVs. So involvement.
Absolutely. Just want to take a moment to introduce one of our audience members, Ian Hopp, who's the founder of a startup company here locally called Conduit. They're doing a lot of work in this arena, and so you guys need to hook up after the meeting. All right. So thank you so much. I mean, this is, I think, really important. Along with the Commute Smart program, as people are thinking about how to reduce their costs of transportation, these are important considerations. And, like I said, I think that the city can potentially be involved in providing some level of assistance or incentives to help, make this infrastructure possible, it's no secret that for many years the city had an issue with air quality, and it's not uncommon for us still to have multiple ozone alerts every summer, and so that's another consideration. We do need programs like Commute Smart because our single occupancy vehicle rate is well over 90%. programs like Commute Smart, work directly to address that issue, but also transitioning to sustainable, forms of energizing our transportation also accomplishes the same goal. With that said, we're talking a lot about EV charging today, but Alabama Clean Fuels Coalition also works with other fuels, like you said, propane, hydrogen. So you guys provide support for companies with like fleets that are interested in transitioning to that type of fuel source, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we're actually under a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Department of Energy, and we're coalition. There's about 100 such coalitions. So we have resources from the Department of Energy, and this is long-standing. It's been going on across various administrations in the federal government. The program is well supported because you do help businesses, schools, propane school buses, compressed natural gas garbage trucks. Hydrogen is emerging and not as readily available here, but we've had recent announcements of hydrogen for medium and heavy duty vehicles. That can reduce your idling. All sort of for even paratransit. There's wonderful opportunities with fuels, and it's based on the types of vehicles, the size and class of a vehicle. Typically will drive you towards one fuel or another. And so, the consumer involvement with EVs is relatively new for the Clean Fuels Coalition. Mark Bentley is our executive director. He's been executive director, and Philip Wiedmeyer is the chairman. And they started this organization, Philip did, 20 years ago. And so there's many, many stories of success. And as I said, over time, I've been on the board for 2 years, and I understand that over time, different fuels, come to be of interest, and right now electric's getting a lot of the attention, but there are meaningful uses of all of these fuels, and we would always welcome opportunities to assist with any way to help. But it's important that we consider the impact on the finances too. How much does this cost and what's the benefit? Because the transportation sector is the #1 emissions. Transportation produces them, so we do calculate that and work with the Regional Planning Commission to help and understand the benefits of replacing gasoline consumption.
Awesome. All right. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Really appreciate you coming along. Thank you for your working with the Parking Authority. Look forward to seeing what comes about through that. But really appreciate the information.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, please talk to Ian afterwards. Okay, next up on our agenda, we have consideration of an amendment to our taxicab ordinance. And I believe City Attorney Julie Bernard is joining us virtually.
I am here.
All right, so Julie, you want to just give us a brief introduction? We covered this in previous meetings, but it's always helpful to have a little bit of a review.
Right. This rose out of a request from Z-Trip, who is now operating the Delicab, essentially. And they had made a request some time ago about increasing the taxi cab rate and adding a surcharge due to the increased fuel costs that everybody's experiencing right now. We had some discussion about it. There's an administrative procedure that the city has really never implemented that was put in the ordinance back in 2012 for annual adjustments to the cost, and that, as best I can tell, has never been done. The rates that are in the ordinance at this time were set in 2012. I did a little research. I've shared with the chairman a little bit of the research that I've done, and I'll be glad to share that with other members of the committee. And a number of cities are looking to do very similar actions options right now and kind of looked at where what some other cities are charging. And the proposed rate of, I believe it's 32 cents per eighth of a mile after the initial quarter mile is still pretty much in the range of what a lot of other cities are charging, which I'm kind of seeing in the $2.50 to $3 range. I think the 32 cents puts us at like $2.56, if I remember my calculation correct, per mile total. It's hard to compare apples to apples because every city has a slightly different way that they set out for the rates to be calculated. But after looking at it, after having some discussion with Councilor Quinn and with members of the administration, the ordinance currently has the finance director being involved in calculating the annual potential change in rates, and also with Chief Mitchell, Chief of Operations, we've had some discussion. And it appears the thing to do right now would be to go ahead. We haven't increased our rate for 10 years. Consider that change in rate and then make the temporary, the surcharge, the fuel surcharge of $1 per fare temporary. The ordinance that I have drafted has that expiring on December 31st and includes a provision that this committee would review the ordinance in November and to make a recommendation to the council to make any changes before December 31st. Either let the surcharge expire, which I hope, yay, we've got lower gas prices at that time, or consider whether it needs to be extended or if an additional change needs to be made to the rates. In the meantime, I would suggest, working with the administration, we come up with some way that will work, efficiently for any possible, administrative adjustments, if that's the way the council wants to keep it, and have those ready by November. So all of that could be considered by the first of the year. And that's what you have before you. I only set out subsection that's being amended. I think that's sufficient, but I may, in the final version that goes out, just set out that whole section that includes other rates related to limousines and other things, and sets out the administrative procedure that's never been implemented.
All right, great. So just to summarize, the changes that are being proposed are a change in the hourly waiting rate from $24 to $30, a change in the base rate for each 1/8 of a mile from 25 cents to 32 cents, and then also $1 temporary $1 fuel charge surcharge that would expire on December 31st. Council Woods, do you have any questions? I think this addressed your previous concern that we do something temporary for the time being. Any additional?
No, I think we kind of got to the best iteration of this at this point. So I would move to approve this item at the appropriate time.
All right. I'm going to second that. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So we're recommending this to the full council for approval. Julie, we'll have to, get with you prior to November to start drafting some of the, some potential permanent changes with respect to the surcharge. But anyway, I look forward to having those conversations, and thank you for your work on this. I think.
You're welcome. Of course, as you both know, council set a hearing on this for the 21st, next Tuesday. And the notice that went out said that the draft will be available tomorrow. The council's PI staff may want to make that available on the council side of the website somehow, like I think you've done it before, under your news heading or something, to just put the ordinance out there where people can see it. And, have a copy. A copy will be available in the clerk's office as well.
Okay, and my understanding, so the increase in the rate and the waiting period, are those also considered temporary changes until December 31st?
Well, I have it drafted as it's an amendment to the ordinance, which would be a permanent change, but
Okay.
the council could always decide to make an adjustment to those
Okay.
in December as well.
Okay. Okay, so,
From the research, I was going to say, from the research I did, currently, just in a quick search, Pensacola, Louisville, Myrtle Beach, Panama City, and New York City are all in the last several months been considering a rate increase. And for instance, Pensacola was going from $2.55 to $2.65 per mile, and Panama City was going to $2.50 a mile to $3. As I said, I think the 32 cents per mile puts us right around $2.56. I mean, per eighth of a mile puts us at $2.56 per mile. So it's kind of, that's what it comes out to. So it's kind of comparable to what some other cities in the area, and I saw a large variation among cities as to what they have for their taxi rates.
okay, great. So again, this will come up before the council as I assume, at least as far as the rate and the hourly rate, an item of permanent operation amendment of the ordinance, and so that will be a public hearing on June 21st. Yeah, and that hearing's being advertised starting tomorrow, correct?
The notice is, the ordinance is going to be available. I will check and see that the clerk should have advertised it as quickly as possible. I'll check. I know I reviewed the tape last week after the council passed the resolution. I hope it advertised this Sunday.
Okay.
There is not a statutory requirement for a hearing in this case, so there's no specific formal procedures. As you know, we sometimes run into some legal formalities with zoning hearings, but in this case, if there's adjustments that need to be made at the hearing or, after the hearing, it's not, it won't trigger like renotice like zoning does.
Okay. Got it. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to new and old business. I want to announce again that we have 2 vacancies that we'll be considering filling. The first is for the Birmingham Parking Authority, for which the only qualification is that you be a resident of the city of Birmingham. And the other is for the Birmingham Jefferson County Port Authority, for which the only qualification is that you be a resident of the county. So if you have interest in serving in either one of those positions, please contact my office. Since we have our representative of our Department of Transportation here, I did have a couple of questions. The first is related to the mayor's proposed budget, and apologies if you aren't the person to answer this, but anyway, the strategic pavement management plan is something that I believe one of our engineering consultants has worked on in the past. Are we going to start doing pavement management? This says old or new business. That pretty much opens it up.
So I'll, considering I've just got back Wednesday, but what I do know is that that's to hire, I think it's to hire a consultant to start.
Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna pull up the
Chaz
email.
can speak a little
So
more
basically,
about that.
it's kind of like a continuation of something that was done in previous years before this administration. I think the gist of it is that we have 400 miles of unpaved street paving that we need to address. So the reasoning behind this was basically to give more, trying to get the best word, to try analysis of our streets and get away from the grading system of 1 through 5 and put it on like a report card. So you'll get a street rating of like 83 or a paving of 55. So that was the reason behind it, because the actual street paving plan that was presented to this administration from the council, that was done long before we started implementing and actually doing street paving. So what we want to do is make it right by doing it the right way, and not just based off of just, complaints driven, just stuff like that, but actually have a consultant come in and work with our staffing to make sure that we're paving the right streets and have a deferred maintenance plan with it also. So we know that a street that's rated at an 83 right now will be 65 in 3 years. And then we need to address it at that point in time instead of just going out here and just paving.
Wow, that's exciting, actually. You mean we might actually start using some real data?
Yes.
Wow.
That is the point behind it. So that's why that line item is in the budget.
Man, that is awesome. Cool. All right. Well, I had another
second question too.
Yeah. Second question. So, just based off of observation, AlDOT is doing a great job of cleaning up some of our problem spots. Do you know anything about the terms of their contract with their contractor that they have doing that environmental work? I mean, how long can we expect that to last, basically, is my question.
We're talking about the on-ramps or the off-ramps?
The
underpasses.
Okay,
primarily.
We'll have to follow up with that because I'm not sure.
We've been working on the Gateway project.
Yeah, which is different, but I think.
We'll have to check with
Yeah. Okay. That one was from Maisha, by the way. But I'm interested too.
Yeah, she gave me a heads up on that one.
All right. So I think that covers it for us. By the way, how's the traffic calming project going? Have our speed bumps actually been delivered yet?
So we have installed some speed bumps in Huffman. We have a delivery that I believe is just come in for another project, and then we've placed a large order for 35 covering 4 projects that should be here in the next couple of months.
Okay, so still supply chain issues are still a problem.
The supply chain issues are starting to ease up a little bit. The last order actually got in a whole lot quicker than the Huffman order, where we were almost. But so it's getting better, but we're still chipping away at it as we go along.
Awesome.
I know this was one of the, I think I got 88 questions to answer from the council about the budget, and that was a question that was the street calming in the budget, and the answer to that is yes, it's in BDOT's department's budget.
Okay.
83 questions I got to answer.
Yeah. Okay. Just, I think we're supposed to talk about the budget at the committee of the whole meeting this week. Been getting significant number of questions from residents about sidewalks, so I don't know where we are in the 5-year plan or whatever, but want to hear about that.
I know this is kind of off topic, but I think James has a presentation he would like to give to the council about sidewalks, because it's a more strategic way that he's trying to do it with some matching funds with ALDOT to do like a citywide sidewalk repair plan. So the funding that we do have is probably going to go towards some matching funds that we need to do for a grant that ALDOT has. So trying to make our money stretch.
Okay, great. Good to hear. Thank you. Appreciate it, Colin. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Motion to adjourn?
I will congratulate Colin on his recent addition as well.
Oh, yeah, congratulations.
Glad to have you back. Motion to adjourn, or move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor say aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.